Yay!
He just died. Again, man.
And again.
Somebody find some money for Blomkamp.
Yeah. Gritty South African short circuit.
Yeah, exactly. With a bit of silliness, and there's a couple of Muppets in it.
Dude.
Broadcasting live from inside the Power Band, this is The Blah. In this episode, everybody dies. I'm the Wolverine, along with the intrepid Prototrope.
Good evening, everyone.
And of course, the elusive, mysterious Algorithm.
What's going on?
Gentlemen, how are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing really, really great. So, everybody, we've got an exciting show for you this week. We're going to be talking about some fantastic things.
Terrific.
Okay, so, folks, this week we're going to be talking about sort of a melange, a paella, if you will, of different topics. We didn't really want to spend too much time on any one thing and kind of switch it up a little bit. We're going to spend just a smattering on the Joker again. We're going to be talking about Neill Blomkamp a little bit. Really more about Neill Blomkamp than his films. And we're going to talk about some tech news as well. So let's get to it. I'm excited.
Yay! Yay!
So let's talk about, Chad, you want to kick it off, talk about the Joker a little bit? Just to recap, we all pretty much unanimously agreed that the whole section of the Joker, the scene where Thomas and Martha Wayne get killed in the alley, didn't need to be there, as it was just unnecessary, and we didn't need to inject that little bit of Batman there. We saw it as, you know, let's throw in a tie-in to the whole Batman thing, just so, you know, people don't get confused as to what this film is all about. And we felt it was unnecessary. We didn't think that the film needed it at all.
Yeah, we had listener Sash write in with some really interesting thoughts on the Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne addition to the movie that we were we were kind of griping about it, but we weren't being overly shitty about it. It was more just kind of confusion as to why it was in the film. And Sash had a really interesting point about how removing the Waynes from the film and the fact that Batman is basically born at the end of the film is the only ray of hope that there is. And I just thought it was a really interesting thought, because I suppose I had just kind of layered in my own history of viewing these various things and kind of knew it was going to happen anyways, and so I didn't think it was necessary to the film. But if you take it as its own thing, it makes a lot of sense that what Sash said about how there's zero hope and it would be a pretty bad note to end on. So I just thought I'd bring it to the show and see what you guys thought, because really made me think a lot.
It didn't occur to me that, how can I say this? The whole hope thing, that never occurred to me. I guess because I don't know, I don't feel like Batman's origin is anything particularly hopeful. I mean, you know, Batman perhaps in the DC universe is a net good, and whatever it took to, you know, create an origin story for him, sure, but also, you know, Bruce Wayne was an orphan and, you know, was raised by a butler, and I don't know, that can't have been very easy. It's sort of, I don't know, it feeds in, I think I said that I was kind of just over the whole Batman continuum, and
you still are.
I still am, but it's just that, you know,
clearly
one thing set off the other thing, which set off the other thing, which set off the other thing, you know, it's that back and forth, and I get it. It's cool, but that was how I perceived it. But it is definitely an interesting take to perceive it as sort of a ray of hope in the movie.
I agree with Ben. As usual, I agree with Jarhigo. Typical Mulvey cop-out. Just gonna glom onto Jarhigo again.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, what he said. I agree with what he said. Now listening to Jarhigo say it again, I definitely am over the whole bat thing. But that comment about the ray of hope, on the one hand, yeah, he's a net good Batman, but the way he becomes a net good is it's so tragic. It's not like the guy walks out of the alley and he flies into the air. You know what I mean? It's
right.
It's like Ben said, he's raised as an only child by his butler, you know?
My cocaine.
my cocaine.
But my cocaine. I here's a true story, little anecdote for you. I went hiking up in New Hampshire a couple of years ago, and we went out on this really great excursion, and my buddy brought along a walking stick. It was, one of those high-tech ones that looks like a ski pole, and he called it Michael Caine. It was Michael Caine. It was great.
That's pretty good.
But, Sasha's comment, the ray of hope, I really like that because it really brought a lot of light to the darkness in our hearts in that dark episode of the podcast. And I thought it was very thought-provoking, to be perfectly frank. So, props to Sash, man. That was a really great comment. And indeed, it is a ray of hope, and I can totally see it both ways. So
yeah, for sure.
Really good stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, something else to think about, considering how Thomas Wayne was sort of portrayed in the movie. Maybe it isn't that good that Bruce Wayne ends up getting raised by Michael Caine.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thomas Wayne sort of in that movie was really portrayed, I don't know, a prick? Kind of a prick? Would we say a prick?
Yeah. Yeah, I think just like to close it out, I feel like it was less about the continuum of the Batman story, etc., and more like a ray of hope for the society. Like, I think one of the things I took away from the film was that the society was just in a heap of shit. And like knowing that there is such a thing as a hero coming means that like no matter how bad it gets in society, it might come good. And I think that's kind of where how I took the ray of hope comment. So yeah, I always find it really nice to have something that maybe didn't click with me or I didn't quite understand in a film and bitch about it publicly on the internet for all eternity, and then have someone be like, yeah, actually you're wrong, and then tell me a really good reason why I'm full of shit. And I'm like, oh yeah, yep, turns out. So I really enjoyed the comment.
I really agree with that. I love when somebody lobs a little grenade in there that's just like, I didn't even come close to imagining a quantum reality where I could think about something like that. And it really made me think about it a lot. And it really changed, not a lot, but a little bit about how I viewed the film as well.
Sure, yeah.
Just added another great layer to it, really.
Well, it just took that 2-minute scene and took it from shitty into like, okay, yeah, I'm on board with that.
Totally.
So thanks, Sash. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Sash. It gives me hope that our YouTube commentary section might be more of a discussion and less of a cesspool. So thanks for setting the precedent.
Thanks for being the ray of hope in our YouTube comments.
Yeah, it really gives me hope that our podcast will not be filled with darkness all the time.
Just some of the times.
Just some of the time.
Speaking of rays of hope, Benny, you shared a hilarious Sesame Street piss take.
Speaking of rays of hope, it's time for a segue.
Terrific segue, Chad. Yeah, SNL did a Joker trailer parody with
David Harbour.
Yes, thank you, David Harbour, as Oscar the Grouch on Sesame Street, and the whole thing was done in the style of the Joker. It was
so funny.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It was stupendous, really.
SNL has always been hit or miss for me, and that was a hit. That was good.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was a hit for sure.
Just the Sunny Days song, it just got me. I cracked up. Sunny Days. It's just like, oh god, this is genius.
Yeah, I watched it once, and I had missed a bunch of the stuff, and then I watched it again, and I realized that the weather forecaster at the beginning was Guy Smiley.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, totally. From ABC DEFG Network. That was great.
Yeah,
really, really funny.
The Bert and Ernie stabbing scene, goddamn. There's just if you haven't heard of this one, folks, you get to check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, totally.
If you want to see some great stabbing, folks, check that out.
Yeah, stabbing videos are kind of my thing.
Yeah, Chad's he's big on getting stabby.
Yep.
Yeah, I felt like it was a nice little lift after the fatigue and darkness of going through rating the Joker.
Yeah, man.
So we wanted to we didn't want to sit and talk about Neill Blomkamp's trilogy of science fiction films, as great as they may be, but just sort of do a cursory go-over and really talk more about Blomkamp himself and some of the other things that he's up to.
Try and tackle a conversation about a director and see how it works, because we have a lot of favorite directors or interesting directors, but we haven't really tackled that as a topic yet.
Yeah. What did you guys watch out of all of the stuff that he's done? What jumped out at you? Whatever. Somebody jump in.
I'm going to take a guess here that C-Lab watched everything there was to be watched.
Yeah, I watched it all.
That's a Roger Higo.
That's a 10-4.
That's a big Roger on C-Lab.
Did you guess that when I texted you like 17 links to his short films that he made when he was 12?
I was waiting for it. I was not disappointed.
You delivered in spades.
Yeah.
Folks, he literally sent me a link to a YouTube video of like a VHS recording of... No, just kidding.
Oh my God. Right, no.
Practically.
I
guess just like at a super high level, I was blown away with District 9 back in the day in terms of like how creatively executed it was. The found footage kind of thing and the like meshing of the CG with a really wild visual world of a, township or I guess like a slummy kind of township in South Africa. So it really kind of knocked my socks off back in the day, and then wasn't super stoked with his other films, and then was interested to check him out again because Mulvey, you had said that you enjoyed his other stuff. So I watched him again and was kind of like, yeah, okay. I suppose I just had a different mindset at the time I first watched them, and on revisiting them, I appreciated them more. Like I'm not going to get a fucking Elysium tattoo, but like I enjoyed it more.
Oh, dude, you're not going to get an Elysium tattoo to match mine?
No, no, I'm not.
Yeah, that sucks. Well, there goes that plan. Good one, Mulvey.
But it's like one of those infinity ring ones where like you have half of the Elysium ring on your back, and I have the other half on my back.
And we put our backs together when we finally get together, like over thousands of miles,
Yeah.
And then it spells out Elysium or whatever, or we both are allowed to go into Elysium, but now we can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. And Ben's got Matt Damon's bald head tattooed on his back.
This is a really great example of another time when I should have thought ahead.
I actually just got the tattoo on my arm so that I could use the medical bed.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right. Practical.
There's somebody out there with one of those.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that, Chad, because I really like this guy's films, and I agree with what you said. Like District 9 had a really great, a lot of people said this about. I hate to bring up Star Wars because it's just it's a really tender topic here on the podcast. But that whole idea of the future looking old and junky and broken and not shiny and new, like District 9 had, and that's not even really a good comparison. It had that quality, but even better. It was just that whole, like, it was the future and there was futuristic technology, but alongside just regular sort of modern day technology, our modern day technology, and sort of taking place in an alien slum inside of a human slum in a really tough city, Johannesburg. Like it just worked really, really well, and him and his wife, Terry Tatchell, they were nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for that film, which is, a huge part of what put him on the map, in addition to the fact that the movie itself was praised by, critics and fans alike.
Kevin, you were talking about like the alien tech alongside the like futuristic alien tech alongside the human tech. In District 9, it reminded me of that great scene where Christopher Johnson, the alien, the prawn, is with his little prawn kid, and they're digging through shit to try and find stuff. And like the little kid pulls up something and shows it to him, and he's like, "No, fuck that. That's human bull. That's human bullshit. Like, throw that away. We're looking for our stuff."
Yeah,
that's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like,
totally. like a pencil sharpener, which is actually probably one of the best things we ever made.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great scene. Yeah, you're right.
You're mentioning it being similar to Star Wars in the sense of it being like not glitzy and glamoury sci-fi. Immediately made me think of like cyberpunk, and then it even falls below cyberpunk on the spectrum, because you've got like laser beams and shiny floors sci-fi, then you've got kind of like urban environment where everyone's a cyborg, cyberpunk, and then you've got this where it's like a mixture of real life with an alien outside and kind of how it meshes together. And then you also sprinkle Joburg in there, which is, it's a kind of a genre unto itself. or at least like it falls in with Star Wars into a rare grouping of movies that are a genre unto themselves.
Yeah, you're right. And you know what? Now that I'm listening to you, going to Elysium for a second, it was it had a really heavy kind of cyberpunk
Yep.
element to it, just with Spider and, Matt Damon and the whole thing that they were doing and the sort of endoskeleton that they screwed onto him and all of that stuff. And, people carrying around the data in their heads. And, it was really cool. But what was great about it is that like in cyberpunk, it's always like nighttime and raining, like Blade Runner, like the city and neon. And there's like some sort of Asian something involved in like, got to have an Asian element, and it's like, not that that's a bad thing, but it just seems like heavily overused, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But what was great about Elysium was that it was just like bright, oppressive, hot sun. Like that was one thing that like you could feel the dryness. You could like taste that dust blowing around in LA. You could feel how just like hot and gross it was there, which was, so you did get that same sense of disgustingness that you do in District 9, because you can, really feel the dirt in District 9, man. You know what I mean? And ditto with Elysium. It just, I just thought that was cool to put cyberpunk in that sort of hot, dry, well-lit desert kind of environment instead of like, the typical, what I just did a bad job of describing a minute ago.
Yeah, like I think they call it neon noir, which is like Akira and Blade Runner-esque, nighttime, rainy, neon lights everywhere kind of thing. Yeah, it was the opposite of that.
Yeah, sure.
Did you say neo-noir or neon noir?
Neon noir.
No, neon noir, which is an interesting term.
Wow, I don't know if I should say this out loud, but I don't know if I've ever heard that term before, chat.
Yeah, I don't know how widespread it is. I just saw it or heard it when someone was talking about Blade Runner, the aesthetic of Blade Runner, and I really like the term.
You just made it up.
Yeah, exactly. I like it. I think it really
Just made
suits another group of movies, like it's kind of like a subgenre.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love versions of noir,
As someone who's read every William Gibson book, it definitely conjures to mind a lot of scenes from those books.
Yeah, for sure. But I think, as you said, Mulvey, the bright, hot sun, dust bowl nature of a lot of Blomkamp's movies set in South Africa really sets it apart.
Right. Well, in LA, because that's where Elysium is.
Yeah, fair. But I suppose like the aesthetic of...
That's not where they shot it, though, is it?
Probably not, no.
I doubt that's where they shot it, but that's where it takes place. But then again, no, Chad, you're right. And then to your point, like, in Chappie, we go back to Joburg,
Yeah.
Listen to me saying Joburg like a local, yo.
Yeah.
Joburg like a yokel.
Like I'm Ninja himself.
You're not Zeph enough.
I'm not, dude. Score me a loose, bro.
I love the use of Die Antwoord in Chappie. It's unexpected and yet kind of works. It's kind of like the Chili Peppers cameo scene.
It's Die Antwoord.
I was waiting for Ben to make some kind of comment about that.
Oh, sorry. Die Antwoord. What was it? The Chili Peppers was that True Romance, or was that what was the one where the Chili Peppers are the bank robbers? Do you remember that?
Dude, Point Break.
Point Break,
yeah.
And it was just Anthony Kiedis.
I thought you were talking about the Big Lebowski, but no.
No. That's Flea, yeah, the nihilist.
Not the nihilists.
Point Break Chili Peppers. Die Antwoord in this movie reminds me of kind of like a Point Break Chili Peppers, where you're just kind of like, okay, Chili Peppers, cool.
That wasn't a huge part, right?
No. But it just reminds me of that surprise, I guess.
That's very nice, but we're not having a conversation about Point Break, right? Are we?
Keeping us on track.
That's super, but we're not having a conversation about Point Break, are we now, Kev?
I feel like Chappie was the weakest of the bunch, but
why?
Even that one I appreciated more on the second watch, but I don't know.
I had the opposite. I couldn't even finish it.
Boombada, why?
Boombada.
I suppose because I liked Hugh Jackman. I liked Hugh Jackman's Ozzy Ocker ridiculous, like Steve Irwin short military thing. And
yeah, that was a funny character.
What's up with his hair, dude? He's rocking a like serious South African mullet in that.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that Sharito Copley, or however you pronounce his name, was the lead in District 9, the baddie in Elysium, and then Chappie in Chappie. It's kind of like, the dude's versatile as well.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Ben. You were about to get onto something.
No. I was just agreeing.
But you said you couldn't. He said Chappie was the weakest. You said you couldn't get through it.
Oh, yeah. I had the opposite experience of Chad. I was just like, ugh. I got about 2/3 through it, and I was like, I've watched this once already. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like that. But
What'd you like about it?
it's not something. I just like the whole exploration of, the human element there. Like how people interact. And it's like you're essentially like I didn't even like the whole part about like creating an AI and all that stuff. Like I didn't even care about that. That just like went to the wayside for me. Like I kept thinking about like, okay, so you're taking a child with a completely, a brain starting at 0, hard drive starting at 0, and you're throwing him in with 2 hardcore criminals, and they start teaching him about all these different things because those 2 people are not, quote, well-adjusted members of society. And it's like, what happens? You know what I mean? Like, and watching what happens, I think is really cool, man. Says a lot about how we treat each other and a lot about how we treat our kids and how we teach our kids and how we raise our kids. Because I got 5 kids.
I got 5 on it.
I love that shit.
So anyway, that was that was sort of the main thing I really liked about Chappie was that.
Yeah, I've got a slightly different take for you, and
oh boy,
I'm gonna fucking tell you too.
Let me know how you feel about this once you hear it. I've got 2 words.
Locked and loaded, dude. Fire.
2 words. Short circuit.
I totally knew you were gonna say that.
Dude, you know what is so weird about you saying that, Ben, is that yesterday I was driving around and for some reason I just started saying out loud, oh, Johnny number 5. Oh, Johnny number 5.
It just popped in there, huh?
Like Fisher Stevens, man. Fisher Stevens from either, I can't remember if it was Short Circuit 1 or Short Circuit 2.
I believe it was in 1.
Is it?
Yeah, it was just him and Gutenberg riding around in that like mail van, like trying to find him.
Where is number Johnny 5?
When he was hiding out in Ali Sheedy's house or whatever, or apartment.
Right, but Fisher Stevens, like, I don't know. He's not Indian. Like, why he was speaking with an Indian accent, playing an Indian guy in that movie was so weird. But like that way he would say number Johnny 5. I was just saying it over and over in the car like a fool. Yeah, that's how they rolled back in the 80s.
Kev, it's the return of the curse of Steve Gutenberg.
Uh-oh.
Who made Steve Gutenberg a star? We do.
Didn't we see Gutenberg in Stranger Things, or was it just Matthew Modine? Oh no, it was Paul Reiser and Matthew Modine. Never mind.
That's where you died.
Yes. Wait, but who was the third? I can't remember. There was another. It was Carrie Ellis.
Yes.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah.
Can't forget Dear Wesley, the Dread Pyre Roberts.
Dear Wesley. And then I just died.
It was almost like, this might be a bit of a stretch and I'm risking death here, but it was almost like Chappie was to Joker what Johnny 5 from Short Circuit is to the Muppets remake. Like, Chappie is the Muppets remake of Joker, and the original is Short Circuit.
Yeah, it's gritty South African Short Circuit.
Yeah, exactly. With a bit of silliness, and there's a couple of Muppets in it.
Oh my god! Wow, Ben really you just trounced all over my what I thought was like an insightful comment, and then you said that, and I was like, he's right.
Yeah.
Ben, I just real quick because I didn't miss anything back there. I said we can't forget Dear Wesley, Dread Pyre Roberts, and you said something, and then you said, and I just died.
Yeah, it happened.
What did you say?
No, I just repeated for no reason. Yeah,
You just
don't forget
died.
Dear Wesley
Again. Yeah.
And then I was and again.
It's a bloodbath, folks.
The Return of the Curse of Steve Gutenberg.
That is the curse of Steve Gutenberg right there.
That is it, yeah.
It's happening, man.
I got a nugget. I'm going to drop a little dingleberry in here.
That's really nice imagery. Go ahead.
Sharito Copley, the lead actor from District 9.
It's Charlton Copley. Okay. Charlton.
Charlize Theron, the star of District 9.
Oh, my God.
All of his dialogue was improv. There wasn't a single scripted piece of dialogue in the whole film, which I was just like, holy crap.
Are you serious?
Yeah, 100% improv.
I didn't know that. Wow, that is impressive. That's crazy. He was really intense and scary in Elysium.
Dude, totally. I didn't even put it together that it was the same actor.
Oh, I knew it was him right away, but I was just like, wow, he's a monster.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I picked up that it was him, but it took me a little while because I was like, man, I don't know. It's just such a different character, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That it sort of pulled the wool over my eyes for a minute. I got to give him props for that.
Indeed.
I was having like Johnny Mnemonic flashbacks, so I missed it.
I mean, can we just piss on that trope of the thing that you stick in your head to, like, you know, store data?
Right?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
At the whole Johnny Mnemonic thing, it's like, I forget what the number was for you know, it wasn't even a gigabyte. It was like,
it's got 400 megabytes. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. It was like 400 megabytes, something just ridiculously small like that. But like he wafts his entire childhood over the whole thing. Like,
yeah, right, exactly.
The whole thing. I mean, you know, I liked Elysium, but that mechanic that they used where, you know, they put the thing in his head so he can download the stuff from the corporate guy's head. But it turns out that the corporate guy put a trap on it so that if you download the information, it kills the host. You know, like that whole thing was just like, come on. That came out in the 21st century, man. Like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't they just have downloaded the fucking shit in that dude's head, like, to a laptop? Or, you know, like, I don't understand what that mechanic was all about, but.
Right.
It's funny how many sci-fi movies can be completely deleted from the universe with one email.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no. It's a great point, Ben.
The whole thing was just for the mechanic of, oh, this is how he dies at the end, you know? Like, oh, he's going to sacrifice himself to open up the medical beds for everybody, you know? I don't know.
I kind of found like that was where a lot of these films maybe didn't fall down, but like stumble is some of the deaths. Like District 9, I think, is a good film all around, and like there's no need to dig into the finer points of it necessarily. But Elysium, you get like Jodie Foster, who's like this like
evil French woman,
you know, sociopath who doesn't care, uber corporate. Yeah, exactly. And then she gets like stabbed in the neck, which okay, fine. And then she just sits there. She's like, you know what? I'm just gonna die. I'm just gonna lie down. Don't touch me. And then she's like, citizen deceased. It's like, well, she gave up quick, didn't she? You know, so like I feel like some of the
that was weird.
Some of the issues in this is kind of like how they handle like the closure of some of the character arcs. Where you're just kind of like, okay, that's that then. Matt Damon's just gonna blow his head up. Cool.
Yeah. I think Blomkamp has yet to make his masterpiece.
It was a great debut, but I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I would say if that's okay, to follow that comment up, I would say let's use that as a segue to talk about some of these other things, because he has sort of, you know, he kind of bounced around after Chappie, and he was attached to this and attached to that and attached to a RoboCop. Which was this film would have been I guess a direct sequel to the 87 Paul Verhoeven behemoth masterpiece, RoboCop. And that was probably the jonkiest thing that I've ever said on this podcast.
Did you just make up a word to discuss how janky it was?
I think I did. I think I combined janky with jaunty. Janky is jaunty, jonky. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that Ed Neumeyer, who wrote the original, and he had a writing partner, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but they wrote a spec script for a sequel, and that's what he was going to base this RoboCop film on, which is pretty exciting.
It would have been so good.
And especially if if he was going to film it, in that same style, like that District 9, or even some of the elements from Elysium, that would have been a really great movie that I would love to see.
Yeah.
I think you would have done a terrific job. Yeah. Did they have anybody on the slate to
I don't think they've announced anything yet.
play RoboCop or?
No, I think the whole project's dead. He left the project. He's not on it anymore.
Right. No, I mean,
Whether they had any actors signed up or anything. I don't think so.
Yeah, there's often casting choices, etc., associated with these failed projects. But
I personally did not read anything like that, Ben. Not to say that it didn't happen.
Yeah,
because oftentimes you often read like after the fact. It was like, well, at one point, it was like Tom Cruise was going to play.
Well, that would have been great. Whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know about that. I think it would have been a really. Again, I would have loved to have seen that film.
Just Jimmy Google is just looking at the IMDb for that film, and there was nobody cast, at least according to that. So I think it was just a really early stages.
Wait a second. Are you telling me you're hanging out with Jimmy freaking Google?
Yeah, man, he's hanging out.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that Blomkamp exited the film. Or was pushed out of the film, or whatever it was. I've read an interview with him that was written back in just before District 9 came out. It was interesting because, one thing we didn't mention is that he was penned to direct the Halo movie that Peter Jackson was producing.
Oh, yeah.
And so
right.
Bungie at the time would have probably been owned by Microsoft at that time. They were going to make a Halo movie, and it was like all go, go, go. And I think Blomkamp spent like 3 to 5 months on it, and then the two studios got into a fight and the plug got pulled. And so then Peter Jackson called Blomkamp the next day and was like, yo, Philippa, Fran, and I, so the trio that works together to create like Lord of the Rings, etc., are really bummed about how this was handled. We want to help you get a movie greenlit. And so they helped him greenlight District 9. And so he was going to be doing Halo and kind of was going to be having his debut be a major blockbuster. But one of the interesting things about the interview was like Blomkamp saying, if I was to do Halo, I would have had my hands tied creatively. And since I got lucky and was able to make District 9 and Peter Jackson let me put in a no-name actor and let me set it in Johannesburg, it really made him appreciate creative freedom. And he says in the interview over and over, like he doesn't want to do stuff where he doesn't have total creative freedom. And so he doesn't want to do big budget films because he'll lose some of that freedom. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if the RoboCop thing was kind of like he wanted to do it in a certain way that we probably would have really appreciated, and the studio wanted to do more of a Total Recall reboot bullshit. And he was like, yeah, nah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's his face in Ant-Man?
Yeah, exactly. Edgar Wright.
Yeah, Edgar Wright, exactly. Edgar Wright doing Ant-Man. Same idea.
Yeah, good call.
I'm really glad that he's not doing that, man, because, it's like studios don't want to take chances on people and their visions and their creativity. And I get why. I really do. There's like money behind it, money at stake and all of that, man. But it's just like, then you get like a guy, when you let one guy do it, and it's like you get District 9, and it's like you get a really great product. It's a really great film too, It's a shame.
Yeah, it really is. And he hasn't had much opportunity. Clearly he has standards in terms of creative freedom. And while Chappie might not have been a box office hit, like it seems like he doesn't want to go beyond a medium budget film, and therefore he maybe isn't able to get these big projects off the ground as often, and ends up getting stuck, I don't know, making shorts and stuff.
Well, I mean, I think that seems to be the segue into Oats Studios.
Yeah, good call.
Which is like why that I feel like Oats was the product of all that stuff we just said, Did you have a chance to watch any of those shorts, Ben?
That's a negative.
It's a negative, good buddy.
I really
I did not.
What? I did not. I was hanging out with Michael Caine. I really enjoyed Raqqa, and I really enjoyed Zygote. The trailer for anthem Conviction was like, I don't know what was going on. I was like distracted and I couldn't hear very well. And it looked epic, but like beyond that, I couldn't see very well because I was outside watching it on my phone and there was glare and like whatever. The other two were really good. I was really impressed, man. I mean, Rocca had Sigourney Weaver in it, for Christ's sake, and Zygote had Dakota Fanning in it. Like it was, you know, and Rocca was like, you know, that's the thing about. I mean, the thing we haven't even mentioned about Blomkamp that's really cool is that the guy started out as a VFX artist.
Yep.
You know, so that's where he began, and he met Charlton Copley in high school in Johannesburg when they were like 15 or 16. So they've known each other forever. And then he relocated to Vancouver in Canada. So and started doing VFX there, and he did some commercial work and worked on a whole bunch of different things and Nike commercials and things like that. So like that's where he started. And I think that he's got it's a really strong card in his deck that he knows how to do VFX, because like when you look at the credits on those Oats Studios films, you know, it's like directed by Blomkamp, VFX by Blomkamp, you know, so he knows how to do both, and it serves him well because it allows him to create another layer of his vision, man. It's another like layer of the storytelling, and like the VFX are really good, man, in both of them, you know, but like Rocco was like, you know, it's just like a slow motion shot of like that reptilian alien, like starting to run, and his foot was in a puddle, and it was like in slow-mo, and it was just really, really good. You know, it was really well done. A lot of really great detail in there, you know, and ditto with, you know, going back to District 9, same thing, man. It had that dirty, gritty look, and he melded the VFX into that like so perfectly, man. And, you know, one thing about Rock I really liked was like the reptilian aliens were really cool in a let's not have the reptilian aliens look like velociraptors kind of way, because I'm so over that. You know, like it was really, really, really cool looking, man. I really like the look of it.
Yeah, it was like it seemed to me like his experience in VFX gave him, like you said, like a strong card in his deck. Like it was definitely like, to take that metaphor and run with it, like an ace up his sleeve where he knows what shots will and won't work, and therefore he can probably run a very lean production, and he'll be like, yep, got it, and that shot will totally be able to do that onto the next shot. And so like he's probably able to really keep the budget within reason, which then allows him to spend that money on the effects, you know. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if that was kind of the secret weapon that he's got in his arsenal, is the ability to run a lean production and focus on all the money into the VFX.
I would say absolutely, yeah.
And just to circle back real quick, like Oats Studios, I don't know if it was like created when District 9, like, so District 9 was going to be made with Peter Jackson's backing, but Avatar was being done at the same time, and so Weta Workshop was too busy with Avatar, and they couldn't do the VFX for District 9, and so Blomkamp had to go and find other people to do it. And then let's just say that it's likely that Oats Studios, the kind of like, you know, it was kind of conceived around that time of him doing some of his own stuff. I'm probably talking out of my ass, but either way, Oats Studios was created, and it's Neill Blomkamp's
production studio,
VFX / movie production studio, and they put up a bunch of movies or shorts on YouTube, etc. And one of the major ideas was putting up a short, and then if it gets good reception, it might give some momentum to get the film funded as an actual movie. So it was an interesting way to kind of seed ideas out in the wild and see if they can get people behind it.
I think it's a sweet idea, and I think that it's probably a little bit of an expensive way to do it, but I mean, there's no better way to make a pitch about a movie than to like make a 20-minute movie and go, oh, here's my idea, and look how great it looks, you know?
Yeah, ready to go.
Yeah, and like, you know, here we've got all these great actors in them, like, again, Fanning, Sigourney Weaver, Charlton Copley's in one of them. You know, they do a bunch of stuff too. Like there's comedies that they do. There's one called God that's a comedy, and then there's one that's a comedy spoof on like, you know, late night infomercials that they do. Like they've done a lot of stuff. You know, there's a lot of cool things in there. It's so what I mean is that there's a good range in there. It's not just like he's got, you know, 25 sci-fi shorts and that's it. It's not like that at all.
Yeah. It's got a variety.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Do we have much more we want to talk about? I mean, there's not much point in talking about Oats if you haven't seen any of it. You're just going to kind of be like, okay, cool. It's good talk, guys. So is there anything else in this space we want to talk about?
I think he's out back having a beer with Chris Farley, dude.
That would be more fun than sitting here listening to you guys rant about nerdy short films.
Nice. Oh man, that was funny. No, we can move on from this. That's fine.
But yeah, Oats Studios is cool stuff. So there's a YouTube channel. I'll put it in the show notes and check it out if you guys are interested.
Yeah, a lot of cool videos there.
I think for me, like Raqqa is one that's really worth checking out. The other ones are good too, but I really like Raqqa. There was a quote by Blomkamp that really hit me in an interesting way. So he says, most of the planet lives in settings that are closer to Joburg. To me, that stuff represents the future. And I thought it was a really interesting observation because, you know, I don't know how to talk about this without sounding like a privileged dickhead. And I also don't know how to talk about this without it being rambling. So I'll just give it a shot. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I spent some time in Port-au-Prince after a natural disaster. And one of the things that really struck me was it was exactly how I felt when I was living there, was like, this feels like the future, like this environment where it's like survival of the fittest, you know, if you starve to death, you starve to death, dusty streets and kind of, you know, riots around politics, et cetera, and like gas shortages. It felt like the future to me. It was like, you know, in 100 years, we're all going to be living like this, and places like Port-au-Prince are going to be doing well because they've already been living like that. And so it really kind of struck a chord with me when he said that regarding Joburg. And I'm just curious kind of like what your initial reaction is to that quote.
Interesting. That's scary. I don't want to live like that. I'm not even trying to be funny. Like, that is scary. And
No, it is, yeah.
I don't want to live like that. And I would hope to hell that the human race can get its shit together so we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I think there's a lot of negative narrative in the world, but there's a lot of evidence to the contrary that, you know, yeah, there's always bad things, right? But things are slowly getting better. The net good across the planet is improving. You know, there's less violence, there's less hunger, there's less of all of those things. And we are seemingly moving towards a better spot, even though we're kind of living in crazy times at the moment.
You know what? I want to bend that thought just got me thinking, man.
Yeah.
You're right about that. I totally agree with that, actually. And here's why. Because you don't hear about all of the great things. Like, you don't turn the news on and you hear stories like, oh, there was this great guy named Ben Briere who lived up in, you know, in wherever. And he, you know, saved somebody from certain death today doing this, and he's a local hero. Like, you don't ever hear that. You know what I mean? You don't hear, like, you know, people doing great things, you know, and the positive things in the world. Like, people, they don't report on that because that's, I think, not the stage they're trying to set, number one, and everybody thinks that violence sells and positivity doesn't. So I agree with you. And I know that there are a lot of great things out there that, a lot of great people out there doing some amazing things to change this planet. So there really is a lot to be hopeful about out there. You know what I mean? And you just don't hear about it, you know, but if you dig around, it's there. There's definitely people doing it. So good on you for saying that.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, the good news doesn't sell, you know, good news does not sell. Bad news sells.
But I wouldn't have thought of that if you hadn't said that. And I think you're absolutely right. So yeah, there is a lot of net good out there, dude. Well said. You're all about the net good tonight, Ben. I really dig that.
All right. So next week, folks, when we talk about Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol.
Oh, good movie.
Just kidding.
Dude, we should talk about that next week. That's amazing.
Oh my God, man. I want to talk about Police Academy 2 first with Bobcat Goldthwait.
Dude, Neill Blomkamp needs to make a new Police Academy.
Ooh.
Oh,
now
dude.
You're talking.
Okay, so I got something else even better.
Yeah, right now that you mentioned it, I'd like to see Charlton Copley do some comedy, you know, like straight comedy.
I wonder if they can get that sound effect dude back as like an 80-year-old chief of police who trains everybody.
And Michael Winslow.
Yeah. Get him back as the chief.
You know what was great about Michael Winslow is that he always carried around this portable microphone that seemed to just mysteriously tie into virtually any PA system that was like nearby, you know? Like when he would do like the gun thing, you know, and people would duck and run and somebody would yell at him. It's so stupid, man.
He's even in Spaceballs. Do you guys ever watch Key and Peele?
No.
I have watched some Key and Peele, yeah.
You've watched them? Did you see they have just like a one-off, and we can put it in the show notes. They do a little sketch that's it's Michael Winslow versus Bobby McFerrin.
Oh my god!
It's like the weird mouth noise guy. It's like going at it in like a like
that's amazing,
full on like Matrix fight kind of thing.
That's brilliant, man. Bloody brilliant. I love it. In a Matrix style fight, that's really great.
Yeah, it's totally a Matrix style fight.
That's really funny, man. Also, for the folks at home, anybody out there, if you want to see yet more range from Sharlto Copley, watch Europa Report. I caught it on Netflix a while ago. I think it's still on Netflix. It's actually a really good science fiction film, and it's about a crew of scientists. It's about a crew of
it's like the Love Boat, but it's on Europa.
And it's a crew of the Love Boat.
It's a very
and they go up to the moon of Europa.
There's Isaac, and, Captain Stubbins.
Yeah, they're all there. Gopher, they find some interesting things. It's a good movie, and it really showcases Sharlto Copley, more of Sharlto Copley's incredible acting range, because that guy's a monster actor.
Yeah, he plays Gilligan in that one, right?
Yeah, that's right, Chad. He plays Gilligan. Oh my God, talk about dying! You guys just stabbed me to death right there.
I think I'm going to try. My new trick is going to be trying to get you guys to murder me in every show with bad dad jokes.
It's good. Good strategy. I like it.
Hey, got to keep it entertaining. Got to keep them separated.
Hang on, I got more to say. I just got to jot this death down. Chad, the only other thing I wanted to say about Blomkamp was I really like him. I like not just the films he makes, but I like his approach. I like what he's all about. I like that he wants creative control. And I love the fact that he started his own production studio because of that. And I just want to see more from this guy. Like, I'm curious to see this is one of these guys that's like, I'm so curious to see what he does next, because he's always trying to think and do things outside the box. And I really dig that, man. And it's like, if we can see a RoboCop with a District 9 kind of feel, great. If we can see a movie like Rocka, or a short like Rocka get made into a feature-length film or a series, like that would be sick.
Totally.
So that's my final word on Blomkamp. I want to see more, because I think the guy's super interesting.
Love it. And maybe nowadays with everyone pissing money into creators like Netflix and Apple, etc., or they can find some money for Blomkamp.
Somebody find some money for Blomkamp.
Yeah, I think, like I said, his masterpiece is yet to be made, and I believe he can make it. It's just as long as he doesn't have Ninja and Yolandi in there, it'll be great.
Totally.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Although I don't think they did a terrible job.
They did
I
okay.
thought they did a pretty good job.
But yes.
No, considering they're not actors, like they did great.
No, they did great. I just found myself like exceedingly annoyed with Ninja and his fucking yellow machine gun.
Fair.
and his fucking skullet. Yeah.
Dude, skullet, I love it.
Yeah, his skullet. But hey, if I can I just just one more thing? Hugh Jackman was also rocking a crazy mullet in that movie.
Dude, it was the most Aussie thing ever. I loved it.
I was like, what's up with all the mullets, man? Like Ninja had the skullet, and Hugh Jackman was rocking the mullet, and the whole, like, it's just weird.
Dude, Hugh Jackman was like the most perfect Aussie Ocker ever. I love it. And he brought that to the character too. Like, he walked in, it was like, I'm going to be the most Aussie guy ever on this one. And they're like, okay, yeah, no worries.
Yeah, right. It's almost as if they were like, do you think you could Aussie this one up just a little bit? And he was like, yeah, mate, I got this.
Yeah, mate. Let me just pull my socks up.
Wow, that was great.
Yeah. I think my favorite scene in the 2/3 of that movie that I watched is because it's so weird and awkward, and the way it resolves itself is so like such a nothing burger. Is when when Hugh Jackman just like totally jacks fucking Dion Wilson like down on his desk, and he's like fucking chokeholding him, and he's got his fucking gun to his head and shit, and like everybody's like whoa, and he's like, oh, just a joke.
Just what? Just fucking with you.
Yeah, it's like nothing came of that, nothing at all. Like
it's like a scene from The Office.
Yeah, nothing at all.
Yeah, it's a little more chill.
I think your comment about he's got a masterpiece up his sleeve and hopefully he can get the funding to make it reminds me a lot of like the one thread that really jumped out at me in all these movies was like they were almost all about someone going into the skin or living in the shoes of another person, you know, like the main character in District 9 becomes a prawn, and Chappie and his creator, you know, Chappie saves his creator by making him a robot, and Elysium, you know, isn't quite that way, but like Matt Damon doesn't give a shit about anybody until he's going to die, and then he becomes the hero. And so I feel like, you know, it fits perfectly with like a RoboCop, and you could really see him getting another thing funded, and it would be in that same vein, but an opportunity to make a masterpiece.
I think he certainly deserves the opportunity.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Microsoft.
So speaking of Halo and Microsoft,
man, you are we're gonna nickname you Segway from now on, dude. Jesus,
but not like a Segway, like the actual vehicle. That's my actual like the algorithm rides on a Segway.
Dude, that right there is gold, baby.
Yeah, we're gonna appeal to our well-funded listeners.
Crowdsource me a Segway
as we're going into the Microsoft portion, which we know Chad is going to have no interest in. You know, if we can get him through this whole thing, maybe somebody should get him a Segway.
I'll get rewarded with a Segway.
Just crowdfund him a Segway.
Yeah, I think we need to get him what was once touted as the conveyance of the future and has now been relegated to mall police and in certain cases actual police in certain locales.
And more importantly, it's relegated to nerd polo. There is Segway polo leagues full of computer scientists.
Oh my God, I cannot even.
Yeah.
I don't have the energy to go there right now.
How much could a mall authority surplus Segway cost?
Right?
You know, it can't be that much.
Yeah.
So that was a good Segway that turned into a failed Segway.
Yeah.
Total shit show. Yeah. Do you
So speaking of Halo and Microsoft,
right. So this is getting more awkward by the minute. I wanted to talk about the Microsoft event the other day because I thought it was interesting. They had some stuff in there that was a little more next level, and I thought it warranted a mention. I mean, this is a podcast about nerdery in the internet, so you know, let's have at it. We did an Apple hate episode, so why can't we talk about this for 5 minutes?
Yeah, man.
Did you guys have a chance to check out the Verge's Microsoft event in 9 minutes video?
I literally watched it right before the podcast in the event that we were going to talk about it.
I love you.
I didn't watch any of the videos, but I've read up on it a bunch, so I'm aware. I'm watching it right now. I'll watch it for the next 9 minutes because I'm not going to listen anyways.
I watched the 11-minute summary.
Yeah, I didn't. I really think that, you know, it's so funny. It's so funny watching the way like the tides shift with these various large companies. Like Apple used to, you know, was really, really great, and then they like pretty much sank into the ninth circle of hell, and they were on their way out. And then they, you know, Steve Jobs came back and revitalized them, and then now they're like on top of the world. And you know, sort of ditto. Microsoft was like this, you know, all-seeing Sauron-esque eye at one point where, you know, they had the government got involved because they had like too much of a monopoly going on, you know, and then everybody hated on them for a while, and it's like, and then, you know, got into the phone space, and it's a shame that the phone went nowhere because it was so good. But, you know, here they are, like all of a sudden they just started making these Surface products, and like, you know, who knew? Like, they're huge. They're such a smash hit. And the design has been copied and emulated and all of that sort of thing. And they're really pumping out some really interesting things. And I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think Microsoft has been coming out with some pretty interesting little pieces of hardware, and they seem to be doing all right with it. Yeah, I definitely got a bit of a chub over the what the hell was it?
Bit of a chub.
Bit of a chub.
The Duo.
No, I don't care about the little devices. They're neat, but I don't care about that. No, just the new Surface Pro X.
The Pro X. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got some next gen processing power. It's got a built-in cradle with the pen is actually like nestled right into the cradle
in the keyboard.
In the key cover. Yeah, the keyboard cover.
I cannot get over that. That is so perfect and so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice.
It's clever.
It's super clever. And it's charging in there as well, which I just love, you know?
Yeah. And it's actually somewhat reasonably priced too. Like the 128 gigabyte version of it is like $9.99, which it's not bad.
Yeah, it is. I mean, no, it's not. And the one thing about the Surface line that, you know, I love that Microsoft like decided, you know, the whole impetus with the Surface line was for them to say, okay, here's the kind of hardware you can make. Here is hardware that could be made. That was the whole impetus behind them originally doing it. You know, it was like, okay, here's how we would do a tablet, you know, and like they were kind of throwing out the design out there, like, you know, okay, like hint, hint, nudge, nudge, like other people start making this, you know what I mean? And like their products are really well made and they're beautifully designed, man. Like I would say as beautifully designed as Apple products, and Apple, you know, they make some really nice products.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you find that other people have picked up on the design stuff? Because Google had the problem of, you know, creating their own line of phones, and then very few people kind of followed them, and just, you know, many of the Android phones have lots of bloatware and shit in them and stuff. So do you find the people have taken Microsoft's lead and run with it?
Yeah, I do. HP they've got a tablet that's pretty much exactly like the Surface. Huawei does too, I think, Ben. The Mate X or the Mate X1. There's a ton of them.
Yeah, there's a whole slew of Surface clones out there with the same basic setup, where it's like a detachable tablet with like a, you know, just a simple fold over cover keyboard setup, which is great. I love it. I love my Surface. It's old as fuck, but I love it. But I don't use it for anything. You know what I mean? I use it to entertain myself when I'm traveling, like, or, you know, or when I'm sitting in bed and I don't feel good or something, you know, like I just watch movies on it, chill out. And sometimes I draw on it, you know, like I got the pen, like it's great. I love it. It's a really nice little piece of hardware.
Do you guys see yourselves buying a new Surface in the next couple of years because you love the use case of the Surface or the tablet form factor?
I would say for what I'm doing, for what we're doing right now, like I'm doing a lot of editing, and I would say if they made a version of the Surface that was more like a 15-inch, then I would probably get one. As it stands, I would be more interested in getting the Surface laptop.
Yeah.
Right.
I currently have an HP Envy X360, you know, which folds over on itself, which again, don't need any of that, but the price was great. I got it on sale at Best Buy. It's a great laptop, but like I lugged the thing around New York one day when I had a couple of auditions and it was brutal. So having the portability of a Surface Pro, it's like you can't beat it. They don't weigh anything and they're super crazy powerful, you know? So I think it's really just the screen size on the Surface in particular. So like the laptop or the book would be really where I would go. But I have the Surface 3 as well. That's sort of dead too.
What about you, Benny? Are you entertaining a new tablet purchase, or are you also more in the computer space, like a desktop, laptop space?
It's tempting for sure. I would like to update what I have, although what I have is still functional, perfect, no problem. It doesn't have a terrific battery life, but I bought it refurbished, you know. Yeah, I might consider it. I don't know. We'll see. I don't use it a lot. I don't travel a ton, so I don't. If I started traveling a lot, that's when I would want to get something that had some power to be able to do shit that I need to do, you know? And whether I would go with a Surface, I might, but I might also just go with like, you know, the Surface Book or something along those lines. That's just a little more comprehensive. But most of the time I just use my desktop because I'm at home and that's got all the balls I need and all the screen space I need. And, you know, It's like, if I'm going to do something, I may as well sit in front of my desktop and do it there.
Yeah, that's where I do the bulk of my work too. So like it's really for traveling and for when I need to go work in another room. Like if I can't be in the room where my desktop is, because so many people here, I can just, go to another room with a laptop and I can continue doing what I'm doing. I can also travel with it, which is fantastic. But, again, if I had my druthers, I'll take the 24-inch screen of my monitor any day of the week, and I'm planning on upgrading that to like a 32 because I want something really big, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's like use case specific, man, really, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm not in the Microsoft or Android space, but that doesn't mean that I'm not, aware of the, traditional computer, desktop, laptop versus tablet kind of transition. And, being an Apple head, it means I'm just talking about different products, but it's quite similar in a lot of ways in terms of the trade-offs. And some of the people that I followed and listened to podcasts for a long time in the Apple space are all about, iPad, iOS first and only, and they prefer working in that operating system and, want to do all of their work in that operating system. And you can do real work on a tablet, et cetera, et cetera. And like, that's interesting for them and great. And I got a iPad, 4 or 5 years ago to try that kind of thing. And it just didn't work for me. Not that I don't like the tablet, but it's just, I couldn't do what I wanted to do easily, and so I similarly end up with a laptop or working on a laptop because it's just, I don't know, it's just easier.
It's so much easier, dude. And if I can just jump right in here, I wanted to say, there's a couple of things I wanted to say, but first, let me just say, obviously Apple has a product like this. They have the iPad and the iPad Pro, and like now the Pro, it has a keyboard. And like the thing that's so funny to me about Apple's setup is like, their laptops are like, well, not the new ones. Like they've had a bunch of problems with the keyboards in the last year, but like their prior laptops like are legendary for having like the best trackpad period, like ever. And what's crazy to me is that they built that ridiculous folio keyboard for the iPad Pro that A, has no trackpad, and B, just looks so dumb, man. And it just seems so like janky and not a lot of smooth flow between those that peripheral and that device. You know what I mean? Like I would have thought that they would have come out with something way better as like a sort of a peripheral keyboard or whatever. Because like Microsoft's like the type cover is like that's it, man. That's like the gold standard for like keyboard covers. It's so good, man. And I'm surprised that Apple didn't do something similar to that.
They seem unwilling to experiment with form factor, where a lot of the Windows/Android space is way more interested in experimenting with form factor. And we don't need to get into the Apple versus Microsoft stuff, but I guess like at a high level, this Microsoft event to me kind of further solidifies my personal view that I'm more of a laptop-y computer person currently. And while I enjoy seeing where they go with the various devices that come out, like the Neo and the Duo are interesting, and the iPad Pro and the Surface Pros are interesting, but like they're just not for me. Like I'd rather spend a couple grand on a sweet ass rig than $1,000 on a tablet that, very much like what you said, Ben, I'll just end up watching movies on and stuff.
Exactly. And that was the other thing that I wanted to say, was that like it's amazing, it's interesting and amazing to me what has happened in the tablet space. So like the original iPad came out, and then everybody copied what Apple was doing. And there were tablets everywhere for like 5 years, and they have pretty much all but disappeared. Like nobody uses them. Nobody talks about them. Like nobody really cares. Like, I mean, unless you're talking about an iPad Pro or like the Pixelbook or like the Surface, like, I see like the Samsung Galaxy Tab A, like the 8-inch, and I think, oh, that'd be cool for reading on or watching movies on. That's it.
Well, that's exactly how it was introduced too. Like Steve Jobs sat down in a chair on stage and was like, you can read a magazine or check out a video. And like, that's really what tends to be the use. And everyone trying to shoehorn these pro workflows into it. It's like someday we'll get there, but in the meantime, I'll take a laptop.
I know, but what I guess what I'm trying to say is that like tablets have like disappeared from like the space, and it's like I just as soon go sit at my laptop and read said magazine or said whatever, or my phone, for Christ's sake. So it's like I feel like the tablets have sort of phased themselves out. I wanted to go back to a comment you made about bloatware on Android and Microsoft, and it's interesting after like a zillion years of people complaining about all that stuff. Now on a lot of Android phones, there's Android One, which is like the pure Android stock version. It's no bloatware, no extra, no nothing. And ditto with Microsoft. Like now, a lot of the time you'll see it advertised with no bloatware whatsoever. So that's become like a total thing now.
Which is great, because that would be way more my preference.
Right. This would be the reason I would buy native Microsoft hardware, and this is the reason I have like a Pixel as a phone, because it's stock Android. It's no
bullshit.
There's no bloatware. Yeah,
agreed. And that's the one thing that I wish the LG phone I have had, because I have a G8 and I got it for. I've stuck with LG because they put that quad DAC in the phone and they have a great camera. But like the skin they use is terrible, and it's like I always install something else. I really would love to use Android One.
Yeah. And then I think your experience is better in that department because you end up with a piece of hardware that's more optimized, software that's optimized for the hardware or vice versa, which I think is something that Apple has always been very good at,
The integration.
Yeah. You mean using Android One, Ben, or just pure Windows?
Both cases. Yes. Both cases.
As opposed to what I just said about the G8.
Yes.
I'm trying to understand what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, my desktop computer is just random parts and it's fine. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal with Windows per se. Although certain odd bits of hardware will cause problems with odd bits of software, but it's not that big of a deal. Whereas I think with the Android phones, they can be glitchy. That's why the Pixel is, the Pixel is glitchy too, but it's I think less glitchy than other Android phones that I've had, and definitely less bloaty.
And I mean, I've got the new operating system on the iPhone, and it's got glitches too. Like it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, it's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the beast. But what I was saying is, I think one thing that Apple's always had under their belt, they haven't always had superior hardware specs by any stretch of the imagination.
No,
but you could run the same thing on an Apple rig and it'll run better because it's optimized via their operating system.
Yeah,
to run better on whatever hardware that they have.
Even now, the phones have half the RAM as many Android phones, and they run faster and or better just because that integration. That sounds like what you're saying.
Yeah, they've always been very good at that. Mm-hmm. Whereas everybody, which is, ties to something that you were saying, Chad, where, it's like I feel like the other companies sort of push new specs and faster hardware and, more RAM, things like that. Like those things become standard because of other companies. More screen real estate, all those kind of things become the job of the other people to push. Whereas Apple always kind of sticks to their guns and they move kind of lockstep with everybody else at this point, but they do things their own way, and their stuff always seems to work a certain way because they optimize everything. And they don't have to play with anybody else. You know what I mean? They don't have to worry about their shit working with other people's stuff, which is something that everybody else has to think about. So
yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
And just to add to that, Apple won't even say what any of the specs of any of their stuff is. Like it takes a teardown after the embargoes are lifted to actually find out how much RAM is in them. They just do not and will not talk about it because they don't personally, from a marketing and positioning perspective, they don't feel that that's important. It's like how fast does it go and how much battery life do you get? And just to give an example, like the new phones are getting 4 hours battery life and stuff. So
I don't think it matters to a lot of their customers, but that's one of the things that drives me nuts about Apple. I don't like that.
Yeah, I agree too. I don't like that either.
Oh, sure. Sure. But at the same time, I guess I'm not trying to convince you to appreciate the perspective that they have, but like, they're more like, how many hours of battery life do you get, and is the thing fast? It doesn't matter if it's got a fucking Snapdragon LMNOP in it or whatever. So that's just their choice.
Dude, has the LMNOP come out yet?
Yeah, it's out. It's out now.
The Elementary.
But I guess, like the iPhone 11 Pro, they were able to get 4 more hours of battery life in a 1-year revision of the hardware, which, like, customers are all about that kind of shit.
Yeah, and that's cool. I just hate that they don't divulge like what's going on.
Yeah.
It's like the gearhead in me, It's like whatever, the new Triumph Street Triple RS has more mid-range torque than the previous version. It's because they optimized the same engine that's in the previous version.
Right.
But whereas like Apple doesn't tell you that shit. They told, they're like, oh yeah, we whitened up this part and then we changed this and we did that. And like, we did all this, like,
and it's thinner.
Like they divulge everything,
Yeah.
So I think it's like coming from that world, without getting technical about it, it's coming from that world that it annoys me that Apple is like, no, it's just a box with light inside of it and you just use it,
But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful aluminium box.
Aluminium, totally.
They don't want anybody fucking with what's in their box. They don't want anybody, tweaking shit.
To quote Brad Pitt, what is in the box, Ben?
So what I was going to say, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, man, but, folding phones are like the thing now. And like, I think that folding phones are stupid.
Totally. Don't give a shit.
I don't have any interest in opening my phone up and making it bigger and definitely more awkward to use. I actually went down in size when I went from my V20 to my G8, and I'm fine with a slightly smaller phone. It's way easier to hold it and everything. And it's like, I will say that out of all the folders that have come out, Microsoft put that really well thought out, like, Surface design element into the Duo. And I think it's a gorgeous looking folding phone. And it's probably one of the best ones that's come out, but folding phones as a thing, I think, are just stupid. It's like Google Glass. Like, who cares about... I don't need glasses, like, with mini displays in them, like, telling me everything about my world at every second of, like, every single day. It's just, like, I don't need it. And the Neo is, like, I don't know, man. That little mini folding keyboard that came out was pretty dope. But, I mean, it's so bloody small, man. It's like, what the hell are you going to do on that thing? I mean, it's smaller than the Surface Go, and the Surface Go replaces the Surface 3. So if the Surface Go is the 10-inch form factor, and then the Surface Neo is like this even smaller 8-inch, 7-inch thing, like, I don't know, man. I don't see it. I'm not feeling it. It's whatever. Thoughts, comments, questions?
Yeah, I mean, if you're using it for web crawling and watching movies and, maybe playing some, like, casual touch, games, that kind of a thing, like, sure, why not? I mean, but I think it's a slick piece of hardware for sure. It doesn't appeal to me. I don't see myself using it,
And too bloody expensive, and it's not coming out till 2020.
That's the thing that I find so fascinating about it, is that it's not coming out till 2020, and by the time 2020 rolls around, the competition's going to be caught up to them. It'll be like,
there's going to be something else.
Regardless of the form factor, like, in 2 years, that hardware is going to look ancient in a way. Not ancient, but like, it's going to look dated. So I just find it odd that they chose to share it with such a far off release date.
I agree, because they really, like, they had a lot of stuff in that event. Like, they even had the Surface earbuds, like the wireless Bluetooth earbuds, that have, like, the taptic feedback.
Yeah, you can look like one of those guys with the giant plugs in his ears.
Dude, you know what? I don't know what looks worse, Chad, that look or the ear pod look. Because every time I see somebody with ear pods in, I'm like, oh my God, dude.
It's like they got candy canes hanging in their ears or something.
I know, they look so dumb. I'm like, come on.
I'll take a candy cane in the ear over having a fucking hockey puck hanging off the side of my head.
Oh, come on,
dude.
That was fucking weak, dude. You got to do better than that.
That was so weak. You can do way better, number one. Number two, you cannot sit here and tell me that both those looks are not so dumb.
Yeah. The AirPods are fucking amazing, though. I'll give you, like, regardless of form factor, wireless headphones, when done well, are awesome.
Oh, yeah. I have some.
I've had some that were good, but they had one fatal flaw, so I don't use them anymore.
Sure. But on the Duo and the Neo folding thing, like, I just don't care about the folding thing.
I think the folding phone is a red herring. I don't think it's.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to ever catch on. I just don't think it's important.
I could see, like, the thing that I think is interesting about it isn't the folding phone. It's a not dual screen, but, like, for lack of a better way to say it, a dual screen laptop, where you have a laptop form factor that you open up and it's two screens. There isn't a hardware keyboard or a trackpad. And, like, I think there's an interesting space there where, like, the keyboard changes to whatever you need it for, depending on what app you're using or game you're playing. I do see that as an interesting space in the next, I don't know, 10, 20 years. But the phone thing, I don't think that's the space where the folding thing is going to come into its own.
Yeah, I think the Neo is far more interesting than the Duo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. But I think also, like, if you're like what you're describing, Chad, Asus just came out with a version of the ZenBook that has like it's basically a dual screen laptop. So the keyboard is kicked all the way down to the bottom of like the keyboard area.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Where the keyboard would be is like a second screen, but it's not a touch bar like Apple did on their MacBooks. It's totally different, and it's actually a pretty cool device. Anybody should check that out if you're interested in that sort of stuff. I mean, anybody listening to this show, and certainly check out Mr. Mobile's review of said device. I'm a huge Mr. Mobile fan, Mike Fisher, and so is Jarhigo, as if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I like his reviews.
So definitely check that out. Yeah, he's really good.
But I just feel like the any hardware keyboard at all thing is where it'll probably change, where it'll just be no hardware. Kind of like modern non-folding phones that don't have hardware keyboards. I feel like the laptop will probably get there when haptics work properly, and it's an interesting space. But I feel like it's just like the self-driving car. We're probably a decade early, and in the meantime, I'm probably a bit more of a traditionalist with a laptop and a standard candy bar phone, you know?
But that's the point of what I was trying to say before, kind of with the tablets, is it like, you know, when you boil away all the water, dude, like everybody's like go-to, easy to use, standard interface is a keyboard and a trackpad or a mouse.
Or their phone.
It's like, or their phone. But I mean, are you honestly going to sit here and tell me that a touch screen keyboard is better than a tactile actual keyboard?
Not currently, no.
I don't.
But I think there's
way. Not even on a phone, man.
But even, I guess what I'm saying though is that like it will get to a point where you won't need a keyboard at all because of voice recognition or something like that, you know? So like,
I guess
way down the track it won't be relevant, but in the meantime I'm 100% with you that a hardware keyboard on a laptop is a must have, and one that doesn't fucking break every 10 minutes like the Apple laptops do. Like, I'm completely with you.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is that I think it was Lenovo, somebody came out with a flat, not touch screen keyboard, but it was like a touch keyboard. It just wasn't a screen, but it was completely flat like that. And it came out within the last, I'm going to say 8 to 12 months. So, you know, somebody already dreamed it up and did it. And it was, you know, nobody's talking about that. Like I can't, just typing on glass, like when I type on my Surface, like on the screen, like I hate it. It's just terrible. Like it just doesn't work. I mean, even on my phone, it's annoying, you know?
They'll get there with the haptics someday, but I guess like the final thought that I've got in general is like, I feel like events like this event are interesting, and I really like that people are willing to push various ideas forward. It's just, I'm not going to be spending money on it. Like, it's just, I'm going to be a bit more of a traditional laptop person. For me, tablets are, you know, consumption devices, and generally my phone fits that void anyway. So I'm stoked that people are willing to take the risks, but I'm not going to buy any of it.
Well, no, I'm with you. I'm not. I mean, look, dude, I love Microsoft, but like, and I love the Surface line, but it's like I'm not going to spend $500, $300, $400 on a Surface Neo to sit and watch YouTube on my bed when I can go to Costco and get a Samsung Galaxy Tab A for like $129. It's like, it's a no-brainer, dude.
Yeah, shit. By that rationale, you could spend $400 on a 60-inch fucking TV with you know, YouTube in it.
I mean, that's the same rationale to me. Like with when Apple started nudging the phone prices up over $1,000, and then other people started following suit. I'm like, dude, I can get an absolute monster of a laptop for $1,000. You know what I mean? It's like, why would I want to? You know, like, why are we spending this kind of money on phones? Like, it's just stupid.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it was an interesting event.
Yeah, it was very interesting. They're doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, I would to see. I think Microsoft is interesting because they seem to be willing to just sort of lose money on pushing ideas forward. You know, they've had some very successful things and some very unsuccessful things. So
They have, and they've changed their focus a lot since Satya Nadella came around, you know?
Yeah, he's really talented dude, man.
yeah,
Yeah, he's very forward-thinking, man.
yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah, no, they've really gotten back to their roots in many ways as just a straight-up software company. You know what I mean? And they're not, like, totally they're not so beholden to the hardware, you know what I mean? It's not like such a huge thing. They have the Surface line. It does well, it doesn't do well. Like, I don't think they really care either way.
Totally, bro.
How did we all die this week? I wrote down how Ben and I died. Chad?
You murdered me because I said a bad dad joke and you bludgeoned me to death or something.
What? I did?
Yeah. I said some. I had a segue somewhere. Oh, maybe it was the segue. Then you got really mad at me and it was like that you killed me.
Yeah, it was a segue thing. It definitely was.
I don't think it was the segue. It was another segue that you were really like.
No, it wasn't the segue. It was another one.
Frustrated. You were. I don't know if you were disgusted by it or so happy with it that you decided to like stab me, but you stabbed me.
Wow. Okay. I'm sorry, man, because I love you.
I like how you're just like, you know, not admitting to the crime. You know, you're just pretending it didn't happen.
I love how my brain has completely offloaded the entire incident, and I have no idea.
But that was happened. How I died. I forget the specific segue, but it was.
It's like eternal sunshine on the spotless mind. He's just been.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm Elijah Wood in Eternal Sunshine.
There you go.
I died repeating something you said.
Yeah, it was about Dear Wesley when we were talking about Carrie Elwes being in Stranger Things, and I said, "Don't forget Dear Wesley."
Yes. And then I, like an idiot, just repeated, "Don't forget Dear Wesley."
And then he said really softly. He said really softly. He just went, "I just died."
Much like a parrot.
It was so funny. And as you got, okay, so my death was, I got verbally stabbed to death I was trying to do the opening for the whole Microsoft thing, and then something I said got the two of you on a whole Love Boat thing, and like every time I opened my mouth, you said something else Love Boat related, and that is definitely where I died.
Oh, the Gilligan Island, that's what it was. It was me saying it was Gilligan.
No, it was like just the whole Love Boat thing.
No,
you said,
death. My death was saying that old mate
Charlton Copley was
played
Gilligan,
and you were so angry at me about that. Sorry, I just bludgeoned you to death in your death recollection.
That's great.
Oh my god! Wow, this is that great spirit of the show that Ben was just dying to get back to last week, and after 2 weeks of darkness.
You're goddamn right.
You're goddamn right.
Maybe we should cancel Tombstone and do Requiem for a Dream next week, guys.
Are you kidding? Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
And then we can follow that up with What Dreams May Come. I just really quickly want to say one last thing before we go, and this is that.
Nah.
And it was something Ben said made me think about it. We need to have, in a similar vein to that animated show starring Christopher Lambert / Possessed by Booberry, living with Steven, who's not Steven Seagal, but who is Steven Seagal. There needs to be another show where Chappie and Number Johnny 5 team up.
Ooh. That'd be amazing.
Right?
They won't get anywhere, those two.
Oh my god, but that's the whole beauty of it, man.
They'll both be like referring to each other, referring to themselves in the third person the entire time, you know, like
yeah, but
it's just be the most annoying thing ever.
What if the two of them are like in a team up kind of buddy cop movie? They become buddy cops.
Oh, dude, there you go.
Dude.
Done. There you have it.
It's the reboot. It's the new reboot Starsky and Hutch by Neill Blomkamp.
Go forth and make this happen.
That being said, just want to remind everybody, because Chad was kind enough to text me and remind me, there is a new episode of The Empty Bowl for all of you Empty Bowl fans out there. We got to check out Dan Goubert and Justin McElroy talking about cereal for 35 minutes. It's a meditative podcast about cereal, and I held off as long as I could, but I finally listened to the new episode today, and I was just filled with feelings of warmth and bliss and joy and cereal.
I love how much you plug the show. It's so good.
I love it. I know. I can't help it. They're so great.
There's nothing wrong with paying it forward.
Absolutely.
No, there's nothing wrong with that at all. So yeah, check out the Empty Bowl. Any other little bits or bobs that you guys heard that you want to throw out there to the listeners?
No, man.
It was kind of funny that we went back into like a Microsoft versus Apple conversation again.
I suppose it's always going to be that way with me chiming in with Apple thoughts
versus Google. Yeah, it's nothing wrong with it.
Well, I guess for the first time, really, in any of our episodes, we've covered quite a bit of ground with different topics instead of just having it be one topic. So it was interesting touching on a variety of things and seeing where it went. And I'm really interested to talk about some more directors in the future because there's plenty of good directors out there. And sometimes it's nice to take it a little bit more high level. I appreciated you going to bat for Elysium and Chappie, even if they're not masterpieces. It was interesting to revisit them.
Yeah. And there's great parts of those movies, so there's definitely something to bat for, and I really enjoyed this episode. I liked just kind of like talking about the director a little bit. Yeah,
definitely.
Ben needs to choose one of the upcoming topics so that he doesn't have to suffer through Joker and Elysium and Chappie again.
Just let's stick with this schedule as is. It's fine.
Exactly.
Well, he did because the next. What are we talking about next week?
Tombstone, the classic.
Yo, dude. Yeah. There you go. That was Ben's suggestion.
I don't think I've seen Tombstone, or if I have, I don't remember it. So I'm excited.
Oh my God. I have a Blu-ray copy of it. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I'm into it. I'm super into it. I love that movie.
Yeah, me too. It's so good.
I'm not going to talk about it until
I am shutting up right now.
Watch it and then talk about it next week.
And you have to come up with a new rating system for it this time, though, Ben. No thumbs up, maybe like a stamp of approval or something.
Yeah. No, I thought I came up with one last time.
Oh, the banana. What was it? The golden banana?
Golden banana, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
You kind of come up with something different every time, and then Chad flips out because he thinks it's funny.
And what was the other one? It was the cold ham sandwich.
Cold ham sandwich.
On the spectrum of golden banana to cold ham sandwich.
On the spectrum between those two, how would you rate this film? Go.
Is the middle of that spectrum the Fat Elvis sandwich?
Whoa.
Interesting.
I think having a rating system based on sandwiches could be pretty good.
It could be. You might be onto something really hot there.
We get a peanut butter and banana sandwich, please.
Peanut butter, bacon, banana sandwich.
Man.
Fried in butter.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Yeah.
What'd you say, a pound of butter?
Fried in butter.
Fried in butter.
Oh, man. That is great.
Give me that.
Or a pound of butter. That's equally funny.
Pound of butter is really funny.
Come on, mama.
Mama. Come on, mama.
On that note, mama.
Come on. Peanut butter and bacon sandwich. You put some more banana on there.
And there you have it.
Can you do your goodbye outro in Elvis talk, Kev?
That's going to wrap up this week's episode. Next week, we're going to be talking about Tombstone. You can find the show notes for today's episode in your podcast app of choice or at our website, ebd.fm/episodes/25. You can shoot us questions using the Twitter hashtag AskEBD. You can find me and Wolverine on Twitter. That's MOHLVERINE. Chad is at Chad Normal on Twitter, and Ben is at Jarhigo on Twitter. That's JARHEGEGO. I'd like to take a minute here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. It means so much to me and the boys. If you'd like to support the show, there are two great ways you can do it. First is by rating and reviewing on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast muffins. Or you can tell somebody to check out the show. Word of mouth is really powerful, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you on another time.
It's a hunka waitress on the Menjay.